I feel like I just want to say, let's do it. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Salt of the Streets podcast, a show where we discuss news, government, culture, politics, and how it pertains to you, the individual, and, of course, your natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I am that big bird-looking fellow they call Colin, and I, as always, am joined by my wonderful and beautiful co-host, Donovan, the original Salt of the Street, the Nero of Neoprene, the ultimate bee... I'm not going to say that, but hi, buddy.
Hello, thank you very much.
Oh, what do we got going on today? What's the date? What's the time? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so today is Saturday, October 1st. It is 12:01 p.m. now. We have lots of stuff going on today. Obviously, local stories first. We're going to have let me ask you this. With local stories, we're going to be talking about some Starbucks unions, Seattle budget, or the Bruce Harrell's budget that he introduced. I want to talk about a coffee house that I found that someone tried to burn down, and then you're going to talk about some more Jenny Durkin texts, some updates on Jenny Durkin texts.
Oh, we got all the updates,
yes,
bro. Some heavy shit from the courts came out yesterday.
Yes, and then part two, I believe you're calling it fraud, all the fraud, right?
All the fraud.
All the fraud. That's
all the fraud, baby.
So we're talking about some PPP loan fraud, some food aid fraud, and then some different fraud accusations that are coming out for Donald Trump. We've heard these things before, but now it's a civil case coming out of New York. And then we're going to talk about the new spending bill that is coming out. Or at the, to keep the government going.
Continuing resolution, or whatever they call it.
And then the renewed conversations about the congressional stock trading ban. In part 3, we have some international talk, right? World War III, as we were calling it. So we have some updates on Ron DeSantis.
We're not burying the lead there.
Yeah, exactly. Ron DeSantis also, we might talk about in part 2. Part 3, we'll see however that fits in. Updates on the Ukraine situation. It is getting hot. Things have happened. A lot of things have happened just in the last few days. You have some more updates on the Iran protests that you talked about, not yesterday in your live streams, but last week.
Indeed.
And then in part 4, we have the grab bag. Obviously, we have lots of different stuff, some stuff about fentanyl. We're going to look for the commercial about the ABC reality journalism show. Yep. We can find that in between the two. And then food equity, talk about the DHS video game study. And then, of course, it was announced this week that Edward Snowden is officially a Russian citizen.
Yeah, welcome, comrade.
So we have lots of stuff that we're going to go over this week. It's going to be a fantastic show. I want to thank everyone for joining us here. There will be more people, of course. And, of course, you're watching us here on our YouTube at Salt of the Streets. We also have our Instagram and our patreon.com/Salt of the Streets. You can find all this at saltofthestreets.com. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. And Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things.
All the things.
Yes. And
I keep it simple, baby.
Yeah, that's right. I want to ask you to go and like, comment, subscribe on this video, share it with your friends so more people can find out about this. If you're on the Patreon, we have the newsletter that dropped yesterday. We have the review preview that dropped today for the book club. We have the beer show that you just did yesterday. Also, the beer show live stream spectacular that you did. Is that spectacular?
Yeah, it's right, definitely spectacular.
Spectacular, yeah. And this first segment is brought to you by Swell Blended. Woo! So with that, I want to remind you to evaluate and adjust your relationship with the CCP, right? And after that, Colin, let me ask you this, right? So I don't really have like a big question, but you were talking to me this week while you were trying to work on your piece, your article about anarcho-syndicalism.
Yes.
Right? So I was wondering if you might talk to me a little bit about that, or at least what you learned so far, so we can hear about that, because I think the idea for a lot of people of group-based anarchism is difficult for people to conceptualize, you know?
Yeah, right.
But I think also modern anarchism is difficult for people to conceptualize in and of itself. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about that.
About anarcho-syndicalism.
Yes.
So, yes, a little backstory
far
to this. Yeah, because I went to go write my piece, part 2, I guess, if you will, of the ongoing anarchist writings. And I was going to do it on anarcho-capitalism and anarcho-communism, the two that you usually hear about. And through the research, I discovered this anarcho-syndicalism thing, and I started to look at that and realize. So anarcho-syndicalism is essentially kind of like, ultimately led me to write the piece that I wrote this month about unions and stuff. It's kind of like if you were to take all the unionization efforts that are going on now and then just broaden them out to every aspect of society and culture. everything is done in large base group collectives. So you're talking unions and NGOs and all these different things that ultimately kind of run society. So everything is this large collective group that, you know, kind of in kind of a federalisty type manner, speak to each other and arrange things and all that. But ultimately, you're just a part of this giant syndicate of different aspects of labor and society. And it is, I mean, it's basically one step removed from anarcho-communism, which is just essentially just full-blown communism, but without a central authority at the top, which doesn't make sense. But we'll get into that in next month's piece.
Right.
But yeah, it was a different concept. It's kind of like, you know, what happens if everything is nationalized but without a national government?
Right.
You know, if like U.S. Steel, if the steel union ran everything to do with steel in the entire collective, you know, and then you have like the construction
and everybody
workers.
gets a say in it.
Ideally,
That's weird.
It's a weird concept. And that's what really threw me off is like, well, I don't know anything about this. I can't comprehend it very well.
Right.
I can't understand it. So I'm in the middle of grasping this new unknown branch of anarchist thought that I didn't even really know existed. But, you know, it's important there to remember too, like our views on like contemporary anarchy is just essentially without the state, without a single governing authority to have arbitrary authority over you. You could place authority in any one or any group. It's just you consent to that and you give your authority to that. You give them the authority to do that.
Right.
Versus, you know, and so when it comes to something like a syndicate, I have a hard time grasping how you kind of tilt that into an anarchist mind frame.
Without someone
really
running the whole thing.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. What is it? 1989 maybe movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
And Sandra Bullock, Wesley Snipes. Great movie.
Okay.
But everything in that is Taco Bell, right? Everything is the nicest restaurant is Taco Bell, and the cheapest restaurant is Taco Bell. Everything's Taco Bell. That's kind of what I get the gist at this point of what anarcho-syndicalism is.
Weird.
I might be off base right now because I still only have like a real surface level understanding of it.
Yeah.
So I will, but I will have updates as this goes along.
I like it.
And be sure everybody to check out the next piece that'll drop at the end of October 31st.
Halloween. Closing day.
Yeah, that's right. Boom! All the big things happen in October, bro.
It's been a big week. It's been a big week. Yeah.
Yeah, Carolina graduates from her academy, her flight attendant thing that weekend. You got your house closing. My brother's birthday.
Party at empty house.
Dude, it'll be great.
Everyone can come over for a beer.
But it's BYOB.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where this anarcho-syndicalism thing goes. But, and we'll be interested to see how it dances and plays upon the page once I get there.
Excellent. The newsletters do come out, like you said, on the last day of the month. So we did have one come out yesterday, newsletter number 11. I came out salty newsletter. So if you are on the $5 tier or above of the Patreon, you get that newsletter and you get access to all of the ones before that. What the PC wrote this month was about unions, right? And
which will dovetail real nice when we talk about Starbucks unions.
That's right. Yeah. And then I wrote a piece that was reflecting on a conversation that we had in part 2 last week with Joseph in the comments about single leadership and stuff like that. And so I kind of expanded on some of the topics that we talked about and dug into those a little bit more. So go and check that out.
Do it.
Yeah, with that, we can get into some local stories, right? So
I have a very, very small one to lead off with.
Let's do it.
Seattle, or Washington State, is officially raising their minimum wage again this year.
What is it now? Let me guess.
So yeah, you guess.
The state minimum wage. Oh, jeez, okay.
No peeking.
No. When I got my first job, it was $10.50. I'm gonna say that it's $12 an hour right now.
No.
Is it more than that?
It's more than that.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
We're not,
oh, God.
We haven't officially. Oh, excuse me. We haven't officially gotten the fight for 15 complete in the state yet. But let's pull out a calculator because I don't exactly remember how much. I know what's going up to and how much it's going up. So we're just going to work backwards. The new minimum wage as of January 2023 in the state of Washington will be $15.74 per hour.
State minimum wage?
Yes.
Damn, son.
Yeah, which is up from $14.49, which it is now. Just under $15.
When I got the job I have now, I didn't make that much money.
Word.
And that was making good, like, that was a good wage when I started this job.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Jesus Christ.
At the new minimum wage, the average minimum salary for a 40-hour-a-week worker that takes all the holidays and as much paid vacation and sick time as you can possibly have is roughly $30,000 a year, just a little over that. So you can now get two people on the new state minimum wage can make $60K a year in 2023 in the state of Washington. Which, if you are a small business in, say, a rural, lower class town in, say, Eastern Washington, you just got priced right out of the job market. You can't afford your employees anymore if that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
that's a big jump, man.
You said $60,000 a year? That seems
it's roughly $60,000 a year for two people.
So for two people,
yeah, it's $30,000 a year.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, you're like, wait. That math doesn't check out. Yeah, no. So that was just a random story I came across last night. And I was like, oh, that's hey, fight for 15. You've been fighting for how many years, and you finally made it. Statewide. That's
what is it in Seattle? What's the Seattle minimum wage?
I thought it was 15.
It's got to be more than that. It has to be.
Yeah. Let's pull it up real quick. Seattle minimum
Amazon's
wage.
is 15.
Okay, so the state $14.49. Seattle.
Well, that's it, huh?
Seattle minimum wage. Wow. Let's pull this up here. We are working Washington. Effective January 1st, 2022. Seattle's minimum wage, $17.27 per hour.
Holy shit.
The most workers effective, or for most workers. So not everybody apparently, but most workers.
Damn.
I wonder who doesn't get that. That's interesting. It used to be $15.75 an hour. Wow. That's a whole deal. So yeah.
And minimum compensation if you work for a smaller company or chain with 500 or fewer employees globally, where you do receive tips or healthcare benefits from your employer, your minimum compensation is the sum of your wage. So you can make $15.75 if you make the difference, at least in benefits
and benefits.
Tips and benefits.
Well,
yes.
that's okay.
So if you're a server, then you can make $15.25 or whatever, $15.75. But if you're not in a service industry or you don't have benefits, then you have to make $17.27.
That's so jacked up because
a lot of money.
It is essentially required,
it's not a lot,
right?
But it's a lot.
It's required for businesses above a certain threshold to offer like healthcare coverage in the state now, right?
You have a certain amount of employees,
right?
Yeah.
And that alone is probably like $800, between like $600 to $800 a month per employee.
Lot. Yeah.
So you're already over the fucking coverage, right? I mean, if you have healthcare, boom, you're already getting paid more. You're already getting paid more equivalent in benefits. So go fuck yourself. And then if you're a server or something like that, already you get that lower act, which is funny because that just really only affects like the most oppressed, people in the world, which I think is real.
It's not very woke of you, Seattle.
Real regressive of you, Seattle. How dare you?
How dare you?
Good God.
I like it.
And one last other little thing that I just saw last night too. We talked a lot about Tiffany Smiley last episode, and the debates that they were supposed to do and all this stuff that they've essentially guaranteed one debate between Tiffany Smiley and the reigning, Empress Supreme Patty Murray.
Empress Supreme.
She likes Taco Bell, and she's so bad. She's so terrible. But they agreed to they'd lock down one debate well after the mail-in ballots have gone out.
Yeah.
And Tiffany Smiley's been making a big push, and she did a little interview with, I think, Cairo News, I think Cairo 7, is that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, King 5, Cairo 7.
And because they're one
Local
of the
news channels.
they're one of the affiliates that run the statewide debate program and shit like that.
As they should.
And so they did a little interview with her, and it is found out through that it is very atypical for any large state race, even small state race, to have less than 2 debates. It is generally, it's happened a few times, I guess, over the last 10 or 12 years that they've only had 1 debate. And this is one of those exceptional cases where they're only going to have 1, and it's going to be after the ballots go out. But Tiffany Smiley is pushing the Murray campaign extremely hard right now to set up an initial debate before the ballots.
As they should.
As they fucking should, because that's ridiculous.
It should be like tomorrow, because the ballot is supposed to be on the 15th, or the debate is supposed to be on the 15th or something, right?
It's like it's later than that. I think it was like the 27th or something.
Jeez.
Which is like a week to 10 days after mail-in ballots start going out. So yeah, it's not
because they start going out here in October, right? Like way before, before
say like
November
mid-October.
8th. Yeah,
which is not good. And the response the Smiley campaign has gotten, it said, yeah, we're interested in doing that, and then just nothing is ever happening. So they're kind of just pushing them along, and I guarantee you there will not be a debate before elections get taken place, which I think is fucking insane.
What a shyster.
Good thing the Democrats stand for, the sanctity of the vote and a good solid democracy and all this stuff.
Right.
When they can just go quiet, she can hang out in D.C. her entire life and then never show the fuck up to debate her opponent, who is surprisingly close to her in the polls.
The mail-in ballot thing, right? Okay, so we talked about this a ton during the last election, because in Washington, all of the voting is mail-in, right? You can do everything mail-in. You can go to a polling place as well. There are polling stations, but they also mail you a ballot, so you can do everything from your house. And I didn't know until maybe even 2016, it might have been 2020, it wasn't like that everywhere. I did not know that. I was like, what do you mean this is not typical?
Yeah.
So I feel I've also had, because I've had ballots returned to me, I've sent them in and they've said, these things, your signatures don't match. I need you to sign another thing like 3 times and then you can whatever. So I know that someone is looking at something. I don't know how often they're doing it, and I don't know how prolific that is, but I know someone is looking at something to try and make sure that it's legitimate. So I always struggle with it, but I also know how much weird stuff we saw during the 2020 election that was verified, and we talked about the ballot harvesting and stuff like that, and whether or not people should be allowed to do that. Currently, you aren't allowed to do that, and that was happening. And it's not a big deal. People need to get
states breaking their own constitutions.
People need to get their ballots turned in. So who cares if one person is just helping a bunch of people turn in their ballots? Like, I feel you genuinely. I don't disagree with that notion, but it's against the law as it sits right now. So we probably should do something about it if we know that it's against the law and we know that it's happening.
When it was a bunch of race people down in the South back in the day going around and collecting ballots from people, you were like, well, that's sus. You can't be doing that. That's that's voter suppression. Just like our lovely what her official title now, I believe, is election denier and conspiracy theorist Stacey Abrams.
Oh, okay.
That's her big deal, because she's got that whole conspiracy theory now about there's no such thing as an infant heartbeat.
Yes, Jordan just asked me about that this morning.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy built by the patriarchy.
Yeah, I was talking about. Deal. I don't remember who I was talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I watched an interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene that was from the Epoch Times, and it was about the January 6th prisoners, and they were talking about how many people were hemmed up and the conditions that they were in, because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert are the only 2 representatives that have gone to the prisons to see the conditions that the prisoners are in. And they were talking about how many people have been in prison and in solitary confinement since right after January 6th, and there's one particular guy that they were talking about, but he is not the only one, that got hemmed up on the 16th of January and has been in solitary confinement for 18 months, and his trial is not for another year, and he will continue to be in solitary confinement for the entire length of that time. for going into the Capitol.
That sounds like a justice to me. It sounds like an operating justice system that gets you a speedy trial and doesn't put you away without charge or trial. It sounds legitimate.
Yeah, so I was talking to Jordan about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she said, "Is she the one that said that the heartbeat isn't real?" And I said, "No, that was Stacey Abrams." And I said, and she, ran for governor in whatever one of these states that, and she lost, and she never
Georgia.
Yeah, that's what it was. I said, and she never conceded that race, and so she's just kind of operated and become famous off that. And Jordan was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, 100%. I was like, there is no real reason that she should be prominent at all, other than she didn't win this race for governor, and now she's everywhere. So
I don't. Huge deal. Well, it's because it was racist. Remember that was the big thing, is voter suppression because racist, and that's what they went. And when Brian Kemp won, and by not a small margin, they just never got off that tilt, which I believe, by the definitions of 2022, makes her an election denier who doesn't believe in democracy and is basically a domestic extremist.
And they talked about that particular election in the HBO documentary, whatever it is that I called it. I don't know, something about a fire, something like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's weird because when Steven Crowder talks about it,
stop fire? No.
Something like that. I don't remember. I've said the name a bajillion times. I just don't remember right now. And when Steven Crowder talks about it, he says that they say in that movie that Stacey Abrams messed with the machines, and that's not what I got from that. What I got from it is that the machines could be fucked with, and that Brian Kemp knew the machines could be fucked with, and that it wasn't necessarily a secret that the machines could be fucked with. And if you had the capability to do so and the want and the wherewithal, then you could fuck with the machines if you want to. So it doesn't remove the possibility that Stacey Abrams had somebody to try and fuck with the election machines, but also kill chain. But also she fucking lost. So what really are you talking about? Because she lost.
Yeah.
So she didn't do a very good job hacking the election if she didn't fucking win, right? It always confuses me when he brings that up. He's like, "You can go watch it right now. That's what it says." Like, I've watched it multiple times now to talk about it here, and I don't think that's what it says.
Yeah. That's old Crowder for you. That dude's been on fire lately.
The Jan 6 episode was good.
It was good.
I will give him that. That one was good.
It was good. Yeah. There was some issue with some of the things he said, obviously.
Right. They burnt the church down.
Yeah, they burnt the church down. That was the big one.
Down to the ground.
Because what was that? The 529 insurrection, I believe, where a bunch of leftist protesters and stuff. Literally, they lit a small fire in the church next door to the White House in the basement, and there was rioting, and the cops were getting beat, and so I think it was the National Guard or whatever did tear gas and all this, and then it was Trump's a fascist and beating up on protesters, but his photo and he wouldn't let it go. He wouldn't let it go during the show. He's like, "Yeah, they burned the church down. You can find the pictures. You can find them. We'll pull up pictures." And they obviously didn't, because they didn't burn the fucking church down.
Burn to the ground.
They lit up. They did light a fire in the church, so you're doing a disservice to your own argument because you're exaggerating what actually happened when what actually happened was bad. And it was bad enough. I don't know why you have convinced yourself that they burned this fucking church down when they didn't do that, because it's still there.
It doesn't need to be exaggerated.
No, man. And you just, you do so much more discredit to your own argument when you say shit like that.
It's like if you're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, you're like, there were 30 people that were all trying to beat him to death. Like, well,
not really.
That's not what happened, but it also was fucked up at the base of it. So I know we can just start there and it's fine, It's too much. So let's talk next about the Starbucks unions, right? So you wrote your piece about the unions in general.
I did.
There is
fucked on Starbucks a lot.
Yeah, there's some 200 plus Starbucks stores that have unionized, right?
Yeah, it's over 220 now.
Yeah. So what's the update on this? Right?
The update on this is that it continues. The unionization effort continues like in full force, right?
It's keep going.
And it's keep going, and the union's webpage is up and ready to go.
Because it's one union that's going across all the different stores, right?
Yeah.
And so
It's the Starbucks Workers United.
Okay. Look at that's a fucking. Do they have merch?
They got
Oh God.
official merch, baby. Let's see how much
You okay?
Look at this.
I know. Okay, I know.
$27 must be union made.
Our T-shirts are 15. I make them with my hands. They sell masks.
There's no slave
Okay.
labor involved.
All right.
We
All
make them
right.
ourselves.
I know. First of all, I know that we sell merch, stickers, T-shirts. Order them wherever you want. We'll send them to you. But I feel like you're kind of a piece of shit if you're a union and you're like, buy our merch though. I get it, like this. We're funding ourselves and I don't know. It
Doesn't make you less
feels
of a
very
piece of shit.
sellouty. I don't like the way
Yeah.
that it feels for the union to have a merch page. Like that doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah.
Their logo is funny. I will give them that. The hand with the Starbucks cup, but
Real power fisty too going on there.
yeah. Well, also a little hammer and sickly, and so
Which is,
but.
The workers of Starbucks Unite.
And so Starbucks is going to start having its first meetings for collective bargaining, right? Is that that's what's going on?
And it comes at the same time when the CEO of Starbucks, what's his name?
Yeah.
Oh shit, where'd the article go?
Chuck something, right?
Yeah, it's Chuck Schultz or something like that.
Charles, no, that's the Peanuts
Is
guy.
that it? Okay.
Charles Schultz is the Peanuts guy, right?
I don't know who the Peanuts guy is.
Like
Mr. Peanut.
No, like the comic Peanuts, like Charlie Brown. I mean,
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think it's Chuck. Yeah. We'll go with that. That sounds right. And I'm trying to remember if this is the actual article or not. But regardless, the big story is they had a big company meeting like that, and they're going over all the pay raises and the increase in benefits that they're going to offer all of their partners, as what they call their employees. If you work at a Starbucks store anywhere, you are considered a partner. That's just what they call them. But he did make a point to say that everybody in the union will not be a part of that because that's not in their contract. So the contract that will be bargained for by the union is going to have to go in and try to get something equivalent, because they don't have to offer them the same shit anymore because they're not their standard employees. The union has fucked themselves over by this. This is a power move, because they are also at the same time Starbucks is closing stores, oftentimes at locations that were unionized, because if I was a business owner, I'd probably do that too. Because now all of a sudden I don't get to run my business the way I want to. I have to do it the way my employees tell me I have to. And I have built this giant empire, so go fuck yourself. I know how to do this. You don't.
If you own like the Starbucks down by the ferry, or something like that, and you're just making racks on a daily basis, pure off location.
Oh, yeah.
Howard Schultz, by the way.
Howard Schultz.
And they named a new
Chuck Schultz.
a new Starbucks CEO on September 1st.
Okay.
And his name Laxman Norrisman. And he's going to be the next CEO. He's going to take over in
Sounds
October.
Norwegian.
Oh, today, actually.
Hot dog, October 1st.
After relocating from London to Seattle, and he'll work closely with Howard Schultz.
There you go.
Before assuming the CEO role. So today, actually, is his first day as CEO.
Whoop, whoop.
So, congratulations.
There's a
a lot of shit going on in this
there
company.
is, right.
I hope you're ready.
Yeah, good luck. So yeah, it continues. It originally started in Buffalo, New York, of all places, and then it spread out from there. And they've gotten, like I said, 220 plus is the latest and greatest from the union that says we got it.
How many Starbucks stores are there? Do you know?
I do not know, but I would imagine there are thousands at this point in time. Because literally, God, I remember even when I lived in New York City, you could literally every other block, damn near, without being too exaggerated, in any commercial district, every other block there was a fucking Starbucks that you could go to. There were more Starbucks than Dunkin' Donuts, for God's sakes, which used to be a staple out there. But it's gonna be a problem because the benefits of Starbucks are astronomical. If you are
15,444
tens of thousands
locations in the United States.
Good Lord. And they are international, I do believe, too.
Nearly
So.
9. Yes, yeah. There's 33,833 open stores across the globe in 80 countries.
Good Lord.
Yes,
80.
and
They're basically McDonald's.
There are 9,000 corporate-owned stores in the United States.
Wow. That's interesting.
Damn, bro. In California, there's 3,005. There are 3,000 Starbucks just in California.
Wow.
And that is the most by almost double. The next after that is Texas with 1,287.
Dude.
So by twice.
By double. Wow. That's that's so many Starbucks.
And they only have 10 million more people. They have over twice as many Starbucks. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That is awesome.
That is so crazy to think about. That's so many Starbucks. Good Lord. But yeah, for the average Starbucks worker, right?
Right. Sorry.
Like your average pay is not that great. It's obviously going to go up, obviously, but there's no official tips involved in Starbucks, though you do get a healthcare plan, so you will be, I guess, if you were in Seattle, you'd be below that state minimum wage, but
$15.75.
But still, nobody can get around the state minimum wage, I'm fairly sure.
No.
So you're about to make that as a barista. Even if you're a part-time worker there, you get access to healthcare benefits, which they actually publicly show their plan on their website. You can go to like employee benefits and find out what it is. It's better than the average employer-based healthcare
most
system.
healthcare sucks. So.
Yes, and yeah, they have a much lower deductible than most places I've ever seen, which is pretty nice.
That's probably what they focus on if their if their pay is not going to be $20 an hour. And they're like, let's just try and get it to the smallest deductible as possible.
Yep.
And we'll handle the vast majority of the premium or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like $2,000 to $3,500. Depending on which of the packages you chose.
That's not bad.
No, because most of them start like 5 to 8.
Yeah, comparatively to other healthcare plans. It's
Yeah.
all shit. No one.
It's all terrible.
Yeah, no one up in the comments like, that's fucking too much money.
Yeah.
I know that. I fucking know that.
But yeah, you get healthcare benefits. You have essentially access to a free 4-year bachelor's degree from ASU Online University through their partnership with ASU.
I know multiple people who have gotten their degrees through that program working at Starbucks.
And that alone is worth more than whatever salary you're going to make there. Obviously, because at minimum wage, we're talking about $30,000 per year. What does an average ASU tuition cost? Probably close to like $24,000 a year on the low end.
Yeah.
So boom, there's the majority of your salary right there. You can just get in free benefits plus your health care. You're already making more in benefits than you are in salary.
For slanging some coffee and dealing with some Karens.
Indeed. And you also get free coffee. You get like a free bag of coffee and shit like that. I think it's like once per pay period or something like that. You get discounts. There's 401k. There's, let me pull it up because it was rather extensive. I went over it all in my piece.
As far as, service industry, barista job goes, it's not bad.
Yeah. It was, benefits and perks. This is good. So let's pull this up. Yeah. So healthcare coverage, stock, 401k, and financial well-being. You get paid time off, obviously. You have a pretty decent amount of parental leave. Education, student loan management. That's that ASU program we talked about. Plus, they have other different programs you can apply for.
Will Wallace.
Thank
you very much, sir. Good to see you.
Commuter benefits. If you have to commute, if you take public transit, blah, 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 they will essentially reimburse you for all of that, which I think is interesting.
Bus passes and stuff.
They have partner assistance. So this is kind of a cool little program they have where they will help cover childcare to a certain dollar amount and stuff like that, up to like 10 or 12 days a year. So if you need emergency, hey, my kid's sick today, I got to be home. I think whatever that cost, if you need to come into work or find a babysitter or find something like that, or if you need to take the day off or whatever, they will charge you $1 for that. And then the rest of the day you can get your full pay. And up to I think it's 10 days a year or something like that. So, and that's, Plus they also have other programs for other kind of child care assistance that you can get while you're there.
That's pretty interesting.
And it's open to anybody that works 20 hours or more a week. Dude.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think there's a union out there that will get you those benefits. You might get a higher pay, but
Yeah, and not for 20 hours a week. For full time, maybe they'll give you
for
that.
full time, yeah.
But you can likely get comparable benefits for a full time employee, but not for 20 hours a week.
No,
That's not how that's going to work.
No, that's a pretty big deal. So it begs the question: why the unionization effort?
Also, they're like, plus, we love minorities. Look
Yeah.
at this picture. They're like, we love minorities.
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't know, that's really funny.
And the
Starbucks union doesn't, though. That's all white people in that picture.
Oh, there was.
Do you see that? Do you see how Starbucks likes minorities and the union doesn't?
Let's go to their FAQ page is for the frequently asked questions on the union side. Usually there's like 5 or 6 where they're frequently asked questions. They have an epic document about this.
Someone got paid money to write that.
Yes.
How do we bargain a contract?
Yep. What are your union dues? That's right. Because if you want to be a part of a union, you got to pay into the union so that they can fight for better contracts and stuff like that.
So this is what
$10.84 per week for a full-time employee and $5.47 per week for the anybody works less than 25 hours.
So this website is meant for people who want to join the Starbucks union or are considering joining the Starbucks union. Also, you can buy some merch.
This is the official Starbucks union page.
So, okay. Yep. So this isn't to rally the people for your cause. This is to convince other Starbucks workers to join the union.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, this one I love. It's like, what does this even mean? It says start organizing. So it's got a fist over a bottle of sanitizer. I guess I don't, hashtag COVID or something. I don't understand that.
Are they flavors maybe? Maybe they're coffee flavors.
Oh, maybe they're the flavors.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's go with that. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. There's a couple minorities in there. There you go. That's good.
Animated ones.
Yep. Baristas Union, Starbucks Workers United, Strong Coffee, Strong Union. Woo. Also buy our merch. So yeah, you can sign up right now if you're a partner in Starbucks.
You can give us money
that.
before you give us money.
Yep. And really, the one of the funniest things about this is when it comes to different shops like this unionizing, anybody can attempt to form a union at their in place of employment, right? You only need it's not a very high majority of the people that you need to vote. But when you think about the people that work at Starbucks, each store doesn't have that many employees. So most of these votes are like 18 to 4, 22 to 5. It's like less than 50 people all voting to join these unions. And
I wish that someone would try and unionize our job so that I could just see what Tim's face was like. I'm like, I want to start a union. I just wish that I could see him be like,
oh my gosh.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Because one of the most important things that I wanted to stress during my article, right, is if you are in a position at which you think you deserve more financial compensation for your job and stuff like that, what doesn't help your case in most cases? Joining a union, because your individual right to bargain for the worth of your own labor goes right out the door, and you give that right of bargaining over to someone else, to a collective group of people who do not actually care about you.
But if
they care about the organization, and they care about the strength of the organization, and ideally what they can kind of we want to protect our members. Yeah, right. Definitely. We also want to just make sure that everybody can do as little work as possible for the most amount of money.
We're all trying to quiet quit out here.
Yeah, they're just an NGO version of quiet quitting.
Yeah, we're all trying to quiet quit out here. Let's quiet quit together.
Yeah, it's not good, man. Nobody's winning here. It's very surprising to me that an industry with such an incredibly high turnover rate too has gotten this rally of support for unionizations. And we've also seen this coming to various fast food places now, like Chipotle got into it. Grocery stores like fucking Trader Joe's is, certain of those stores are starting to unionize. And why? I don't get the push. I don't get the push unless if you're just pissed off about not making as much money as you think you deserve, then why would you not want to go someplace that will pay you what you're worth?
So let me present like a question scenario, right? Because I think that there's a little bit of difference in mentality, and I question this myself, that I think someone like Crystal Ball would probably argue that, you know, these are not livable wages. Like, you can't get an apartment off of this one wage. You can't support this for all this type of stuff. And I, growing up, and maybe even now, I would have to think a lot about it, was always under the perception and understanding, like, not every job is going to support your entire life. That's not every job is meant to support your entire life. Not every, like, some of the jobs are meant for, ideally for young people who are maybe still living at home or who don't need to pay for an entire life. Or if you are doing that, then it's meant for you to have a place where you have roommates or some shit like that. And you're just so, and I don't, maybe that's a weird, fucked up, backwards way of looking at things, but that's just what my perception of the job market has been, that not every job is going to support everything that you want. And that's why there are circumstances like low income housing, like houses where people, 4 or 5 bedroom houses where people have roommates and stuff like that. That was always my understanding, my perception of the market and the way that housing and bills and whatnot worked, was that if you didn't have a job that paid for you to live by yourself and all of those things, then that was the circumstance you lived in until you had a better job.
Yes, I think what we're dealing with here is essentially like a need and a desire to acquire simple solutions for extremely complex problems.
Yeah.
Which is never a good thing to do. It always ends very, very poorly. The job market, jobs and what it is that you get paid at a job, they are not necessarily in direct relation with the outer economic state of, say, the housing market or the commodities market or anything like that. Like, they don't work in tandem together as people, you know, socialists like Crystal Ball believe they should.
Right.
They are not that, because the market, as it should be in a true free market sense, they're not explicitly tied to each other. There's all these different externalities and all these different factors that come into play that make housing cost a certain amount of money. And that just because housing costs are up doesn't mean that your average salary is going to go up to match your housing market. Jobs do not necessarily, to get a job doesn't mean you have to get paid enough, you know, a quote living wage. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't have any relation to what it is that you're getting paid to do. You know, businesses operate on we make a product. Ideally, we make a product, and we have a workforce that we invest in to put out this product that we can make a profit off of, and that means we can continue to do this wonderful dance that we call capitalism. It's a whole deal, right? Every business is different, but that's essentially the deal. Goods and services, shit like that. That is the relationship to a salary or a wage. Has nothing to do with how much houses cost outside. The overall market at which that business would need to exist in, the price of the good or service or whatever it is that they produce and allows them to continue to operate, is in some fashion priced at a point at which that relates to the greater economic market in place, housing, groceries, the whole 9 yards. It's all kind of intertwined, but nothing's really directly related that well. So this concept of a living wage is nonsensical. It doesn't mean anything. To ask a company to pay their employees enough to buy groceries and a house doesn't mean that company can exist. The argument gets easier to make when you have a massive corporation like Starbucks, where the executive makes millions and millions of dollars and all that shit. Yeah, which the only reason they have over 10,000 stores in America is because a good chunk of those profits go into, getting those benefits, getting those, those brick and mortar, facilities, getting all of the inventory and the supply chain and all the contracts to go to making sure that employee can show up and work and bring home some kind of money. But there is much more of an argument for people to ask for more money when a small portion of leadership is getting, cashing in, millions and millions of dollars. That is understandable to a point, but that's a different problem, though.
The relationship you're talking about with the different markets inside and outside is to compare it to a different aspect, right, or a different topic. The problem, quote unquote, with what the Biden administration did with the student loan payments, where they limited the amount of money that your student loan payment can be, that it's only a certain percentage of what your monthly income is.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's not necessarily or inherently a bad thing, but it's also not a win for you because it doesn't change how much your loan is, and it doesn't change how much someone can charge you for going to school. Yeah. Now you're just going to pay it back slowly over a way longer period of time. Maybe the government is just going to pay it off again. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
That's only a half a win because it's not lowering the money they're paying, and if anything, it's adding to it because your interest is going to keep going for longer. You're going to pay more over time. Yeah. This isn't really a win. This is just, it's an ideological win so that this is more affordable for you, or you feel like it's more affordable for you in the short term when really you're paying more long term. That's the beautiful thing of, like, the thing on your credit card statement, that's if you make only the minimum payment, it will take you this long to pay it off and you'll pay this much extra in interest. Like, that's on all of your credit card statements. And I don't know if they're doing that with student loans, but if they're not, they should tell you, if you only make the minimum payment, it is going to take you fucking this long to do this. And the government should tell you, once we readjust this, if you only pay this percentage, it's going to take you this much longer than it was before we changed this. So you can either pay this amount and it will still take you this fucking long, or there's a new amount and it will take you fucking 7 more years because all the interest that we added.
Or it'll just bring you until you die, and then your kids won't be burdened with that debt because we're not letting that debt go.
Right. It doesn't realistically correlate with the market like you're talking about. I think that's very good.
But, it does make sense when you look at their whole, broad outlook on how the economy and money works anyways.
Right.
Where nothing really matters. We can just print.
Well, in the same deal, we've heard Crystal make the argument that they believe in continual debt payment of people who are going to school. They're like, well, just make it all free anyway,
Just unionize it or nationalize it. Just nationalize it.
Yeah.
That'll solve the fucking problem.
Well, I'm interested to see what's going to come of this. Let's hit just one more thing because we're going on an hour now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Durkin texts, right? Because nothing else is, like, really big from here. It's just other local stuff. Seattle, just really quickly, Bruce Harrell introduced a new budget, and they're adding back to the police budget.
Refund the police.
Yeah, from what they took away from it, because obviously shit is really bad in Seattle. They're also giving a bunch more money to the housing alliance, the people who deal with homelessness there, right? And my only deal with that is that's not like, it's not inherently a bad thing, but we've also seen California's a great example. If you just keep throwing money at a problem, that's not necessarily going to solve it.
Yeah, that just means the leaders of the charities get bigger paychecks.
Yeah, at least I will give them some credit in Washington. They are trying very hard and actively working on the housing thing, getting people into housing, like free housing and shit, so they can get clean and get figured out, like cleaned up, and get onto this back into the job market. But
paid for by the taxpayer.
We've also talked about Pendleton Place and stuff like that, where they're not doing that. People just live here, and you use drugs, and you can be a prostitute, and you can do whatever the fuck, and it's fine. We'll take care of it, and it's not a problem. You know, so. That is an example of throwing money at this is not always the answer.
Generally, it has not been.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's not so much. It's not throwing money at the problem. It's throwing money it's throwing money into a system that is inherently flawed to the point where the vast majority of the funds you're sending do not go explicitly to what you think they're going to. Something we'll talk about a lot more in the future segment as we go along, but generally speaking, most of the money that gets sent there gets abused in all sorts of ways, in overpriced markets because they're all government contract markets. Nonprofits have a very, very bad track record with their leadership and the administration of these said profits, taking massive amounts of money in salaries and then leaving very little at charity, which something Steve Bannon is going to go to jail for, but nothing like that happens every day.
They're adding 13% to the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. That's what.
Oh, so the government agent aspect of it. Agency.
Yeah, and we talked about them last episode with what the or the International District. They have that big ass housing complex. So these are the people that built that. So again, an example of this is a great idea in theory, just like Pendleton Place. Great idea in theory, and then you fuck up neighborhoods. You put it across the street from a fucking funeral home. You do all this shit.
Yep.
Just a horrible location to do any of these things. Yeah. So
what's the reverse of gentrification called?
And just add a bus route, right? Put it farther away somewhere and give it its own bus route in which there's just a fucking trolley almost, that just specifically runs from there into town.
Yeah, dedicated public transport.
Yeah, that way it's not fucking with anybody's neighborhoods. Yeah. It's not fucking with the industry. They can still get in and out of town. It's fucking one bus route. You could even use a short bus, right? Like, and I'm not talking shit.
Like a smaller size.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I say that because in like Kazap County on the more urban routes, they're small buses. They're just short. That you don't need an entire city bus if there's going to be 5 people that ride it every day. So
just get one of them new green electric buses that they're so proud of these days.
The bus route that I took to leave my house was the 23, and that was a small bus, and it also only ran every other hour. So sometimes I had to sit and wait at the transfer station for an hour for it to come, and then I could go.
Oh, yeah, that case where you just miss it and you go, fuck, I got to sit here forever.
Yeah. So I would take that one and then like the 13 to the college or something like that.
The 13, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
Got to take the 13.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. So that's all. So we'll see, obviously, if Seattle gets markedly better over the next few years because of all of this money.
I wonder what the over-under is on that.
Yeah.
So we have an update on a continually evolving story that, is revolving around former mayor Jenny Durkin of Seattle, who was the PIC in charge. The PIC person in charge.
In charge.
That's right. During the infamous Summer of Love, dubbed by her,
yes,
the CHAZ chop time,
so
when
could be a Summer of Love,
when the semi-autonomous zone of I forget what they ended up calling it, but it was done during the George Floyd protests. It was there on top of Capitol Hill, essentially for about a month. It went from early June to July before they finally stepped in and shut it down after all those
occupied protests.
Boom, there it was. That was the
chop.
That was the chop, because originally it was the CHAZ.
CHAZ chop.
It was CHAZ was Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, you can't do that because then you're like, actually, that's like a treason or something like that. You're not a breakaway province, bro. You can't be doing that. So they had to change it. Otherwise, the National Guard could have come in and literally just taken them all out, which would not have been a good look. But hey,
and people go there during the day and there's like art going on. They're like, look at how fucking peaceful it is and beautiful.
Yeah.
In the nighttime,
and
the
then
woman's getting raped. And kids are getting shot when they're fucking driving through there, wilding and shit.
Yeah, and old what's his name? Simone.
Raz Simone.
Raz Simone comes out there and tries to lay down the law and gives a bunch of guns to people, which it is what it is. Hey, look, the studio's falling apart. But anyways, the big update in this one is there's been an investigation going on into a bunch of deleted text from the head of Seattle government during this time. And what we have here is an official report.
Oh.
It's the forensic report from all the various cell phones at use and the deleted text messages.
She had 3.
She had 3
at one time, I think.
Yes,
right?
At one time. Yeah, they were all. And this investigation actually covered more than just her. It's kind of like her and a bunch of other people.
Carmen Best and other people.
Former Chief Best, Chris Fisher, Kenneth Nefsey. I can't read that right now. Maybe I'll zoom in. Nefsey, Chief Scogins, Idris Biergard, and Assistant Chief Greening. All major officials in the administration during this time. And ultimately, I mean, it's a 27-page report, but they have all sorts of really cool breakdowns of what was going on with the phones, right? They are having a hard time recovering these texts because most of these phones were at multiple times reset to factory settings, and when that happens, that's kind of like what they go over, like what that means, and it's essentially because you're scrubbing your phone, you're scrubbing the evidence.
Oh, you pieces of shit!
So Mayor Jenny Durkin, she was manually deleting texts for a long time. I think the headline of the original story was she manually deleted 191 texts But that's not to include all the other techs that were wiped out during the multiple periods of factory resetting.
Because she's like, I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it got set to 30-day reset. It's probably happened when I fucking reset my phone to factory reset settings.
When they okay,
you piece of
well,
shit.
see, and that's the thing too. When they go over this in the report, which all you gotta do is just Google Durkin court phone forensic report, and it'll come up. It's a 27-page report that's available for been officially released to the public. But yeah, when you did the factory reset on those particular phones, it would auto default to retain the messages forever. And so you would have to manually get in there and change that setting within the various iPhones. And she did. And multiple people did. Carmen Best did not. Her phone was reset to factory settings after she turned it in. And all of her text messages were wiped out at that point because they reset it to factory settings after she turned it in. It's not good,
Come on,
dude.
man.
It's not good. And so,
like, what did you guys do? What did you do that is so horrific that you now need to delete it all? All of you collectively decided to delete this.
yes, probably under her, authority, obviously, but and
Gas them. That's
we'll
what
never
they said in that one.
gas them.
Fucking gas them.
Well, yeah, that was at that time. I mean, that was one of the big things. I mean, there was a bunch. The George Floyd protests were popping off, and the protocol of riot suppression and stuff was in question. There was a lot of like, you can't use tear gas anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can do this, but you can't do this. And it was a really big deal. The looking at some of the tables here, it shows what device it was: iPhone 8 Plus, iPhone 11, and it shows you what date the back was, how many messages were on there, how many deleted messages
Oh,
were
come
there.
on, man.
The deleted messages as a percent, on one of them, this shows like before the CHAZ chop went down, and then July 2021. That was all post George Floyd stuff, right? But then you look, so you're at 22%, and then boom, once you get into that 85%, 77%, 72%.
No.
So it don't look good for Mayor Durkin. She be doing a bunch of such shit, and now I don't know if they have any ability to actually recover any of this, like what was actually going on.
And what?
But it's not a good look. It's not a good look, bro.
You're worse off now for trying to cover it up than you would have been if you were just like, listen, we're just trying to handle shit. Like, we did do that, but we're trying to handle shit right now. You would have, the city would not have been happy. The protesters would not have been happy. But you quit after that anyway.
Exactly.
You're already not the mayor anymore.
Yeah, like
So-
you already knew you weren't going to be able to be mayor again
Yes.
after that period. So I
When
don't
it wasn't
understand.
a summer of love.
And now you might be looking at some, like, if there's any way to nail this down,
Potentially jail time, right?
Word.
For sure, a big ass fine.
not cool,
What
dude.
an idiot.
Yeah.
What a gang of idiots.
Yeah, so good stuff there. Good stuff there.
It's a good thing we have the best and brightest running our goddamn governments, isn't it?
Ah,
Isn't it great?
every government from the smallest on up, bro.
Yeah, only the best for us.
Only the best.
Wow.
This is, how do you become an anarchist? This is how.
You guys are terrible.
every one of these government institutions is completely incompetent, and they're real good at doing a bunch of shit that they more than be happy to throw you in a cage for the rest of your life for. But they'll do it and probably get away with it. So yeah, there's uplifting local news for you, and
Well,
I'm sure
they're terrible.
this is not the end. I'm sure this literally just came out on Friday or
gonna get heavy
Thursday
now.
night. So we will see, and we have been tracking. We will keep tracking.
We just talked about
because
this last episode.
This is great. It's good stuff.
Deborah.
Hey, every single agency is crap.
Yes, she
Amen,
is.
Deborah.
Every major institution hates you and wants you to die.
Boom.
It's horrifically sad, but that is the outcome I have arrived at. Deborah,
That's
you are
right.
just in time for us to take our very first break. We'll be back in 3 minutes Deborah, we will be back. And we're going to go into part 2. We're going to be talking about some national issues, right? We have some fraud that we're going to be discussing, the PPP loan fraud, the food aid fraud. We're going to talk about Donald Trump stuff that he has going on.
Oh, I'm going to have to save this one. I forgot. I'm going to have to save this one for the grab bag.
Drivers, car makers, and states are leaving fossil fuels in the review as Washington.
Governor Inslee wrote a new Medium post about going green and how awesome it's going to be to go fully green by 2035. And yeah, we'll save that one for the grab bag because I got to tear the shit out of this thing because it's terrible.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So we're also going to talk about the stopgap spending bill, and then the potential congressional stock trading ban. So
yeah, super disappointed. No government shutdown. Super bummed about that.
So we will be back, everybody, in 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Boom.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat everything.